Good evening. You're watching the news tonight, your daily roundup of all that has happened across India and the world. I'm Ishan Russell, and our focus tonight, of course, continues to be External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj and the controversy that she's surrounded in. And we'll be talking about that and the political fallout of that as well to a special guest. But first, the headlines we're tracking tonight. The Congress demands Supreme Court monitored SIT probe into row over Sushma Swaraj and Lalit Modi. Party says Prime Minister should explain the matter. The BJP says it will not have a chief ministerial candidate for the Bihar elections, decides it will project Narendra Modi versus Nitish Kumar in the state. The government announces rehabilitation package for flood-affected people of Jammu and Kashmir, centre to chalk out long-term development vision for the state. Trade deficit shrinks on the back of falling gold exports, but exports become a cause for concern, falling over 20%. And Nasir al-Wahishi, Al-Qaeda's second-in-command and Osama bin Laden's secretary who masterminded the 9/11 attacks, killed in a drone strike in Yemen. A focus story this evening. The Congress party today continued its offensive against the Narendra Modi government over the controversy involving External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj facilitating travel papers for Lalit Modi. The party claimed it was not just about travel papers, but about the protection being given to a criminal by the NDA government. The BJP, on the other hand, rallied behind its minister, claiming that this was a non-issue.
The Congress on Tuesday stepped up protests against External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj for reportedly facilitating travel for Lalit Modi. Alleging that the entire BJP was trying to save the former IPL chief, the party has demanded a Supreme Court-monitored SIT probe into the case.
For an Indian citizen, a travel document issuance can be done only by the Government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs and the Chief Passport and Visa Officer. The Government of UK had India's request not to allow Lalit Modi to leave United Kingdom. That lookout notice definitely was there. It was issued by the Enforcement Directorate. Was it proper then? These tear-jerkers that it was done for a humanitarian cause is a false claim.
The Congress also insisted that the buck stopped with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, since it was he who exclusively ran the government. The BJP government rallied behind Swaraj, saying the Congress demand did not deserve a response.
सारे आरोप जो लगाए गए हैं बेबुनियाद हैं, उनका वक्तव्य और पार्टी अध्यक्ष का बयान कि उन्होंने जो किया अच्छी नीयत के साथ किया, शी एक्टेड बोना फाइडे, सारी सरकार और सारी पार्टी उसमें एक मत की है, इसमें किसी को संदेह न रहे.
The BJP also dismissed pictures showing the Prime Minister and BJP chief Amit Shah with Lalit Modi, claiming that they were taken at a time when there were no charges against him. The Shiv Sena also came out in Sushma's defense. In an editorial in Mouthpiece Samna, it said that the Prime Minister should order an investigation to know who was maligning her reputation, although the opposition continued to express doubts about the justifications.
The question is not about red corner or blue corner notice. The question is that a person against whom there is an FIR in Chennai and there are number of show cause notices and summons issued, and then man is not responding to the summons. So his availability at London, and he is insisting that he will not come. You question me through video conferencing, you question me through other modes, but I will not come to India because I have a security threat. The government of India has argued that these are all bogus defenses, and whatever he wants to say, he should come and say before the Enforcement Directorate.
जो छिछालेदार हो रही है, मैं मित्र के नाते उनसे कहना चाहता हूं कि फिलहाल उन्हें अपने पद से इस्तीफा करना चाहिए, और सरकार से मैं कहना चाहता हूं कि इस लुटेरे को, इस अपराधी को, इसे सजा देने से इस देश में एक ट्रांसपेरेंट सरकार जिसको कहते हैं, वो उसका चेहरा और उसका टेस्ट इसी से होगा.
The Congress has also questioned Finance Minister Arun Jaitley's silence on the issue. Senior party leader Digvijay Singh said that while the government justified the help to Lalit Modi as having been extended on humanitarian grounds, he said it involved hard matters of governance on which ministers are accountable to the people. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Senior journalist Yatish Rajawat now joins us live to help us understand the political fallout of this, Yatish, because it certainly seems that the NDA government is in a bit of a bind and the opposition is not willing to let go on this one.
Ishan, it shows two things. One, it shows that BJP is still not, in the governance frame. Its ministers have still not recognized and understood the fact that, they have fiduciary duties which move beyond immediate grants that they can give to their family and their friends. Second, it shows that the infighting in BJP, which was an hallmark of BJP in Delhi, particularly among the top leaders when they were all jockeying for the Prime Minister post, continues. So I don't see this issue just as the opposition is raising it, because the opposition has finally got some material to kind of raise in the air, but it shows a much bigger problem and challenge within BJP and the government.
All right, but how do you see it going from here, moving forward from here? The opposition obviously asking for the External Affairs Minister's resignation. The party for now standing by Sushma Swaraj. But where do you see it headed from here? Because every day there seem to be newer allegations being levelled against her from rumour mills now suggesting that she might have met Lalit Modi while she was in London at some point. So in terms of a PR headache, this certainly becomes one so for the Modi government, doesn't it?
It does, but the British Parliament, which was asked to investigate Keith was in this issue, has decided not to investigate or pursue this matter. Now, if he was one of the prime mover shakers in getting this travel documentation done, I don't see this issue becoming a major, major problem, because currently they have not been able to, the opposition or even anybody else has not been able to show any direct quid pro quo in the form of exchange of money. That's one. Second is BJP now has, after 3 days, has suddenly realized that it needs to back up its minister, and now you see, Rajnath Singh, Arun Jaitley and all the others, senior leaders coming in defense of Sushma Swaraj, which I think has been due to the Prime Minister's cracking the whip somewhere, saying that this has gone too far ahead and we need to stop this. I don't see a resignation in the offing on this particular issue unless until we come across actual exchange of money or actual exchange
All right,
of
but Yatish, what about guilty by
between,
association? I mean, this is what often when the BJP was in power, in fact, Sushma Swaraj, as the leader of opposition, had ensured that during the UPA regime, a minister had, in fact, was forced to give up his ministry, and he was an MOS in the MEA as well, by guilty of association with Lalit Modi. So this time around, don't you think the same standards would be stressed on by the opposition?
No, I think we are kind of simplifying Shashi Tharoor's resignation and the charges against him. You see, Shashi Tharoor was instrumental not only engaged with Lalit Modi, but he was also responsible for almost funding a team and getting a bid done. So his involvement was not limited to association. There was a quid pro quo in the form that Lalit Modi helped one of his partners get a prime team. So it was just not the fact that, a person like Lalit Modi is, I think there is not a single politician in this country who would not be guilty of knowing him by association. Because at one point or the other, they would have interacted, worked with him. I mean, when Arun Jaitley was in BCCI, he would have interacted with Lalit Modi. Now, would you then say that because of that association, Jaitley would also have to resign? So, we're stretching this argument, and we're kind of, missing all the facts that happened for which finally led Shashi Tharoor to resign. So, I think we're still a little far away from an actual resignation in this case, unless until, there has been exchange of money.
All right, so you're saying that as long as that motive is not established of quid pro quo, Sushma Swaraj in the safe zone for now, but with newer revelations coming in every day, we certainly would be having this conversation again. Yatish Rajava, thank you very much for coming in and helping us understand this vexing issue a little better. Well, moving on to the assembly elections in Bihar now, the BJP there is refusing to name its chief ministerial candidate for the elections. Anant Kumar, who is in charge of the party's Bihar unit, said the NDA could fight the upcoming polls under the leadership and the face of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
It's Narendra Modi versus Nitish Kumar once again. As the NDA remains non-committal about naming its chief ministerial candidate, the party has said it will instead fight the polls, projecting the development agenda under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
लालू जी और नीतीश कुमार जी जंगल राज का दुस्वप्न है और उस जंगल राज का दुस्वप्न को बिहार की जनता नकारने वाली है। उन लोगों का चेहरा तो जंगल राज का हो चुका है। हमारा जो चेहरे है वो नरेंद्र भाई के नेतृत्व में वो सुशासन का सुराज का चेहरा है, इसलिए लोग इस चेहरे को ही अपनाएंगे।
If the BJP is to be believed, the Bihar electorate will embrace the Prime Minister's development agenda and reject Lalu and Nitish, who symbolize Jungle Raj. The JDU, however, took a dim view of the BJP's announcement, wondering how a party that could not even choose its chief minister before the polls could face the people with confidence.
बाकी चेहरे ही नहीं है, तो मोदी के नाम से ही सारे चुनाव उन्होंने लड़े हैं, लोकसभा का भी, विधानसभाओं के भी। यहाँ जो किरण बेदी खड़ी थी वो तो फेल हो गई थी, फिर मोदी जी सामने आकर के लड़े, तो उनके पास कोई चेहरा है कहाँ। इसलिए वो जो कह रहे हैं उनकी मजबूरी है।
It is not only lack of good faces, lack of ideas, lack of coherent strategy, lack of the very confidence of we are going into fight. In fact, talk to any BJP leader, switching off the camera, they'll tell you that they have almost lost the election. And they knew it the day we decided to merge, or finally we had an alliance before merger. That was the beginning of the end of BJP's dream in Bihar. And about this party, which is occupying the power in Delhi, Narendra Modi ji, the message has gone down to people, every nook and corner, that this is not the government of poor people or the farmers or the laborers or the lower middle classes. People have a sense that this belongs to a top 2% of the elite of this country. And this message is dangerous for any leader, any party, no matter how powerful you have a sense about yourself.
With the BJP deciding to fight the Bihar polls under Narendra Modi's leadership, this will be the second time that people will see this as a Modi versus Nitish contest. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News about the Congress party now, and Vice President of the party, Rahul Gandhi, concluded his visit to Chhattisgarh today, where he addressed the farmers in the Champa district. Hitting out at the centre, Rahul criticised what he called the government's pro-industrialist policies.
On a 10-kilometre-long Padyatra to reach out to farmers and tribals, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi passed through 12 villages in the Champa district, where coal and power projects are threatening to displace over 15,000 villagers. At the end of his foot march, Rahul Gandhi addressed a public rally where he hit out on the BJP's land acquisition bill.
गरीबों के पास जाओ और उन्हें कहो भैया देखो विकास की जरूरत है, अमीर लोगों से हम जमीन नहीं लेंगे, किसानों से जमीन लेनी है, आदिवासियों से जमीन लेनी है और हम आपको विकास देंगे.
Rahul also slammed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's remarks in Parliament on Manrega and his foreign trips.
15 लाख रुपए वाला सूट अगर वो उतार के यहाँ गांव में आ जाए तो उनको पता लगेगा कि मनरेगा से आपको क्या फायदा होता है. अगर वो यहाँ नहीं आते, वो जाते हैं अमेरिका में, जाते हैं ऑस्ट्रेलिया में, जाते हैं मगर यहाँ छत्तीसगढ़ के गांव में वो नहीं दिखाई देंगे आपको अब।
Tuesday marked the last day of Rahul Gandhi's two-day Chhattisgarh visit as part of a nationwide campaign to rally farmers against the policies of the government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some news from the economy. And India's trade deficit narrowed to a 3-month low in May. The fall was helped by lower gold imports. But there was also some worrying news as merchandise exports registered a 6th straight annual fall. Exports account for about a fifth of India's $2 trillion economy. Trade deficit shrank to $10.41 billion in May from $10.99 billion in April. The figure for May is the lowest since February. The data comes days after the current account deficit also narrowed to a one-year low of 0.2% of GDP in the January-March quarter. Economists believe the fall in trade deficit will keep current account deficit for the April to June quarter in check. A global slump in global commodity prices has helped India reduce gold imports by nearly 23% from April to May and has brought down the cost of crude imports. But the country's exports continue to struggle, contracting 20.19% year-on-year to $22.35 billion in May. Well, time now for a quick break, but coming up on the other side, all the international news. UN Secretary General KiMoon celebrates the art of yoga, says it does not discriminate, only brings satisfaction. More on that after the break.
आजादी के बाद कैसे बदला परिवेश, कैसे बनी संसद, कैसे उठा देश।
When the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom.
कौन थे वो लोग जो दे गए हमको शानदार विरासत, लोकतंत्र की मजबूत इमारत। राज्यसभा टेलीविजन।
Welcome back. You're watching the news tonight. Now, the central government today announced a rehabilitation package for the flood-affected people of Jammu and Kashmir. Now, this is in addition to over 2,600 crore rupees that have already been given to the state under various heads in the last financial year.
Flood assistance for Jammu and Kashmir. The state government on Tuesday got a financial package worth 2,437 crore rupees from the centre to fund rehabilitation in its flood-affected areas. The Finance Minister and the Home Minister announced the decision in Delhi.
BPL prices पे additional food grain उस स्टेट को दिया जाए, जिसको भी हम लोगों ने मंजूर किया है। जो कच्चे हाउसेस थे और छोटे घर थे लोगों के, ऐसे 75,000 घरों को दोबारा रीबिल्ड करने के लिए एक ग्रांट है। टूरिज्म प्रोजेक्ट्स को जो नुकसान हुआ वो, और जो 12 टूरिज्म प्लेसेस हैं उसके लिए एक स्पेशल ग्रांट।
Home Minister Rajnath Singh reiterated that all promises made by the Prime Minister to the state have been fulfilled. He also said the security situation has also improved in the recent past.
सिक्योरिटी सिचुएशन में काफ़ी इम्प्रूवमेंट हुआ है और लेवल ऑफ वायलेंस इसमें भी काफ़ी डिक्लाइन है। और इतना ही नहीं, मैं कह सकता हूं कि टेरर इंसिडेंट्स इसमें भी 25% का फॉल इधर हुआ है।
A team of officers from the centre, led by the CEO of Niti Aayog, will also visit the state to chalk out a long-term development vision. This is Vishal Dahiya's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
The relay hunger strike by former servicemen demanding one rank, one pension entered its second day today. The ex-servicemen are on a hunger strike in about 20 cities across the country. Former soldiers have threatened to expand their agitation if the government did not announce a date to introduce the scheme. Meanwhile, reports suggest that the government could roll out the scheme before the Bihar Assembly elections in September or October this year. One rank, one pension is a key promise made by the NDA ahead of the 2014 general elections. Time now to take a look at what else is making news across the country nationwide. In the second such incident this year, a Jaguar aircraft of the Indian Air Force crashed in Naini area about 13 kilometers from Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh during a routine sortie. Both pilots, however, managed to eject safely. A fire broke out in the aircraft when it hit the ground. Stalemate continues over the appointment of TV actor and BJP member Gajendra Chauhan as the chairman of FTII's governing council. The students' strike against the government's decision entered its fifth day today. Nearly 150 students of the Premier Film Institute boycotted classes and continued their protest on campus. Chauhan alleges the protests are politically motivated. Trinamool Congress MP and actor Mithun Chakrabarti surrendered 1.2 crore rupees to the Enforcement Directorate that he received from the Sarwar Group. The actor was paid the sum for his appearance on one of Sarda's TV channels. He was questioned last month by the Enforcement Directorate in connection with the multi-crore Sarda chit fund scam. A Chinese parliamentary delegation met President Pranab Mukherjee and former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh today. The delegation also met Congress President Sonia Gandhi. The delegation is in India to promote the importance of investment, trade, tourism and people-to-people ties and enhance strategic communication and coordination. A book on Narendra Modi's life, economic vision and foreign policy written by BJP MP Tarun Vijay was presented to Vice President Hamid Ansari today. The book is also translated into Mandarin and will hit the stands in China as well later this month. At a time when the celebration of International Yoga Day is causing controversy in India, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has said that yoga does not discriminate. Ban Ki-moon said he discovered the simple sense of satisfaction that yoga brings when he tried his first asana during his visit to India. In his message for the first International Day of Yoga to be observed on the 21st of June, Ban Ki-moon recalled that it took him a while to gain his balance when he tried yoga, but soon realized it can be done by anyone. The International Day of Yoga is the brainchild of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who had mooted the idea in his maiden address to the UN General Assembly in September last year. Some international news now, and Osama bin Laden's heir apparent, the man who would have led the terror group Al-Qaeda one day, Nasir al-Wahishi, has been killed, in fact, in a US airstrike. Al-Qaeda released a new video where they made the announcement.
A new video reportedly from the Al-Qaeda claims that the leader of the terror group's most dangerous affiliate and the man who one day may have led all of Al-Qaeda was killed in a US strike in recent days. The video, that is nearly 10 minutes long, announced that Nasir al-Wahishi, leader of the Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula or AQAP, had been killed.
دائما موجود فالذين يجاهدون في سبيل الله ويصابون وتصيبهم اللأواء.
Rumors about al-Wahishi's possible death swirled on the internet on Monday, but the Yemeni government was unable to confirm his death. The US government wants al-Wahishi for allegedly approving targets, recruiting new members, allocating resources to training and attack planning, and tasking others to carry out attacks. The US State Department offered a $10 million reward for information leading to his capture. American airstrikes have taken out targets in Yemen in the past, most notably American citizen turned Al-Qaeda cleric Anwar al-Awlaki in 2011. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
On to the news from the US presidential elections, where Jeb Bush, the third in his family, is running for the presidency of the United States, and he formally declared his candidacy for the White House on Monday. In his speech, Bush vowed to wage war on Washington's political culture and insisted that his family name gave him no unique claim to the Oval Office.
Jeb Bush, the third Bush in the race for presidency. The younger son of former President George Bush Sr. and the younger brother of another former president, George W. Bush. The former Florida governor officially launched his US presidential campaign in Miami. Interestingly, his logo makes no mention of his family name.
The presidency should not be passed on from one liberal to the next. So here's what it comes down to. Our country's on a very bad course. The question for me is, what am I going to do about it? And I've decided I'm a candidate for President of the United States of America.
But despite his family background, Jeb Bush is not a clear frontrunner. Polling suggests he has yet to dominate a wide field of Republican candidates. Speaking in both English and Spanish, Bush appealed to a broad swath of the US electorate, with much of his speech dedicated to his record as the former governor of Florida.
We will take Washington, the static capital of this dynamic country, then turn it out of the business of causing problems, and we'll get it back on the right side of free enterprise and freedom for all Americans. I know we can fix this because I've done it.
After Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush's official announcement brings two of the biggest names in American politics into the race for presidency, raising the possibility of another Clinton-Bush race like that of 1992, when Bill Clinton beat Jeb Bush's father, President George Bush Sr. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
An Egyptian court today confirmed the death sentence to ousted Islamist President Mohamed Morsi over a mass prison break during the 2011 uprising. The court confirmed the ruling after consulting with the country's religious authority as required by Egyptian law in cases involving the death penalty. Egyptian law, however, allows the death ruling to go to appeal automatically. The court had last month sought the death penalty for Morsi after he was convicted of killing and kidnapping policemen during the uprising against the then President Hosni Mubarak. The military detained Morsi, Egypt's first democratically elected president, in July 2013 after mass protests called for an end to his divisive one-year rule. Time now for all the other international news stories in Global Buzz. North Korea's state-run television, KRT, released still photographs of its leader Kim Jong-un watching two military drills, one in daylight with anti-ship rockets and another at night testing both ground artillery and warships. North Korea deployed an arsenal of missiles of various ranges and is believed to be developing an intercontinental ballistic missile aimed at delivering nuclear weapons. Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras is seeking a long-term deal with its lenders to pull the country out of its economic crisis. Tsipras said the main factor blocking a deal were differences between Greece and its European and IMF creditors over debt restructuring. Athens is to repay 1.6 billion euros in loans to the IMF at the end of June and an even larger amount to the European Central Bank next month. Two South Korean hospitals are conducting treatment experiments for people infected with the MERS virus. The procedure involves injecting blood plasma drawn from recovering patients into infected people. It has been conducting the test on two consenting MERS patients. Two new cases were reported today, taking the total number of cases to 154. Time now for all the sports action in Sportsbeat. Indian Grandmaster Vishwanathan Anand lost to world champion Magnus Carlsen from a winning position to finish 5th in the Blitz event of the Norway Chess Tournament. After starting off with 2 victories, Anand missed out on a winning opportunity against the Norwegian Carlsen and finally ended 5th with 5.5 points out of a possible 9 in the Blitz event. Anand will now play against Italy's Fabiano Caruana. Guam produced another stunning result today as they beat India 2-1 to move to the top of their 2018 World Cup qualifying group. Guam took the lead after 38 minutes when Brandon McDonald headed in Ryan Guy's long throw-in. Later, Travis Nicolau extended the advantage in the 62nd minute for his side. Serbian tennis player Novak Djokovic maintained his #1 place in the ATP World Ranking in singles. Djokovic, who finished runners-up in the French Open tennis tournament, recently topped the list with 13,845 points. Swiss tennis player Roger Federer holds second place, followed by Scottish Andy Murray. World #2 Roger Federer survived a scare in the opening round of the Jerry Weber Open in Hull. Federer recovered from 5-3 down in the final set to beat German Philipp Kohlschreiber 7-6, 6-3, 7-6 to make a successful start to his grass court campaign. The Swiss top seed is looking for his 8th title at Hull. Well, that's news tonight. Good night.